Right, thanks everyone. Come and have a seat. And Jessica, I will leave you to it.
Okay, cool. So kia ora everyone, ko rua pihu te maunga, ko Whanganui te awa, ko te Ātiho Nui a Pāparangi te iwi, ko Parikino, ko Pungurehu, ko Putiki ngā marae, no Whanganui a hou, engari ko Tamaki Makaurau taku kāinga I nāia nei. So kia ora everybody, my name is Jess Tyson. I am a news reporter at Māori Television and I am also the current Miss World New Zealand. And today I'm going to be talking to you about a few different things. Firstly, about a project or community organisation that I started last year as part of my role of Miss World New Zealand, but also with my experience as a journalist, I've kind of come across a few different entrepreneurs that I find really, really inspiring. So I'm also going to focus on that, those people, and hopefully give you some awesome advice. So yeah, thank you all. Firstly, I also want to say thank you so much to Vicky and Shalish for having me here. It's been a privilege to be able to share my journey about Brave and also have the opportunity to share my messages to you all here tonight. So thank you all for being here. Yay. So last year as Miss World New Zealand, I got to choose a project to work on which was about helping people within the community. And this project is called Beauty with a Purpose. So people may not know that within Miss World, the winner gets to start a project that she then presents to the international competition, which is called Beauty with a Purpose. And this is the heart and soul of Miss World. A lot of people think that beauty pageants are all about walking on stage in swimwear and looking all beautiful, but Miss World is not that kind of pageant. It is something that focuses on helping people, and so each and every girl who goes to Miss World presents a project. Last year there were 120 different contestants, so there were 120 different projects, and my project Brave placed second overall out of 120, and I guess from that I was able to, thank you, I was then given the title of Miss World Oceania, which means that this year I get to travel the world with the team. But that's a different, that doesn't matter because this is not about that, this is about you know, what we're here for tonight. So Brave is a charity, well it's an organisation now, but I'm getting it registered as a charity, and it's about helping young people affected by sexual violence. And the reason that I started this is because I wanted to find something that would help people and something that I was genuine about and something that I had actually been through. So as a child, I was a victim of sexual abuse. I went through the court system to stand up against the perpetrator. He did not get convicted due to the lack of evidence, which is quite normal these days and in the past. And so all of my life, I found it quite hard to talk about. Although when it happened to me and when I went through the court process, I was able to get some amazing help. I had a whānau around me who really supported me. I got counselling support, and it helped me really grow into the woman who I am today. So I'm really, really lucky, and I think without those kind of support systems, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so starting Brave is what I wanted to do to help other young girls and other young boys who went through some similar experiences. And so from starting Brave, what we do is that we travel around New Zealand and present to schools. I talk about my story and what I went through, but more importantly, I talk to the students about consent, healthy relationships, if they are ever confronted with situations that they are victims of sexual violence or sexual harm, that they will learn about the places to go to. So it's actually an incredible thing that I've started and just been a part of. I'm a bit passionate about this, guys. So whenever I talk about it, I get a bit too excited. But basically, what I want to really focus on here tonight is that, of course, I'm not a businesswoman, I'm a journalist. I don't have any qualifications around business or being an entrepreneur specifically, but I feel that the advice that I might be able to give to you all tonight is that through your business and through your projects, you can find ways to help people in your community, which is so rewarding. And as well as that, you can actually find that if through helping people, you might even be able to profit more. Yeah, so I think that's all I wanted to say about Brave. Yeah. Anyway, okay, we'll move on. Yay. Oh no, there's more. Okay, just some quick advice about me starting up Brave is that firstly, if you are a business wanting to help people in the community, you first need to research and to find out whether or not the purpose or the thing that you want to do to help others is something that's actually needed. Before starting Brave, I found I wanted to make sure that this is something that people needed. And so I met with Rape Prevention Education, which is New Zealand's biggest organisation that works to help people affected by sexual violence. And so this is Debbie here in the middle picture. She is a director. And her and I kind of met together and talked about the need that the need of help for young people affected by sexual violence, and specifically Māori people. Māori children, you might know already from word of mouth or people you know that sexual abuse is intergenerational, specifically in Māori, Pacific, but definitely Māori families. And so this is something that obviously that research showed that it's needed. Sexual violence for young girls is, I think 1 in 3 girls are affected by the age of 16. And 1 in 7 boys are also affected by adulthood. So not only is it common for girls, but it is for boys. So there's definitely evidence there that the help was needed. So if you are thinking about, helping any communities, I think it's really important to look for the research and make sure that you are actually doing something that is worth doing. Yeah. Secondly is collaborating with people. And so Rape Prevention Education was probably my number one. Before I started my programs and educational program, I needed to find out, there's guidelines, because these topics that I talk about in these presentations are quite confronting, and so I needed to get some guidance as to what I should and what I shouldn't talk about. And so going through talking to Debbie, she was able to tell me what I can talk about and what I shouldn't because of the age group. So it's really important to also collaborate with groups like that to make sure that the work you are doing is ethically, morally the right work. As well as that, I collaborated with Safe to Talk. So Safe to Talk is New Zealand's first health line, which is established just for people affected by sexual violence, so it's victims, but it's also perpetrators. So which is really amazing that people can, from both sides of the stories or situations, can go there for help. And lastly, I also teamed up with Action Station. So Action Station has started a petition this year calling for government support to have more help in schools for those affected by sexual violence. And last week they released a report showing that there was about a $7 million gap in funding for community groups. So it shows that we need to be, hopefully in the next budget, there will be more money out there for community groups and services like that. Yeah. May have gone over time. Okay, I'll be really fast. So firstly, I wanted to talk about Hine Collections. So this is a woman who is doing an amazing, she's started an amazing business in New Zealand while also giving back to the community. She is from Te Arawa, so Rotorua. You might also know her as Te Ururu Flavel's daughter. So last year she established Hine Collection, and this is an activewear line that is kaupapa Māori, and it is, helping young Māori women, or any Māori woman actually, feel comfortable in the skin they're in by creating activewear. And it's pretty amazing. But the one thing that I really, really wanted to talk about is that she was a mumpreneur? Yeah, so last year she was a stay-at-home mum, had 2 babies. She took the risk and decided to start this. At the time, her partner was working full-time. She wanted to do something to help. And fast forward till now, her business has just blown up. She now owns a warehouse, so she has all of her activewear in there, and she's also expanded to Australia. So it just shows she had a dream, just like everyone here, and she's made it big. Yeah. Another really awesome thing I want to talk about is that at Te Matatini, the kapahaka competition, she released a dress called Poi Girl, and it was honour of Tale Morrison, who was a kapahaka performer. She's pretty much famous, but unfortunately last year she passed away from cervical cancer, and so Hine Collection created a dress with the funds to go towards a campaign called Smio Mea, and Smio Mea is all about focusing on helping young Māori women, raise awareness about the need to get tested for cervical cancer. Yeah, so the dress that she had on sale at Te Matatini sold out within the first couple of days, and she ended up raising about $5,000 for the charity, which is incredible. Yeah. So it just goes to show that if you are, a business, you can do little projects like this to be able to give back to your community. I talked to her about some advice that she had to give, and she says, believe in yourself, ignore those who doubt you, take action, make it happen, and choose the idea you're most passionate about. Right, yeah. So the next incredible woman I want to talk about is Jess Coate. Jess Coate is a personal trainer. She's also an athlete, obviously. She's a bodybuilder, and she's from Te Iti Kahurangi in the Waikato, and she's actually my coach, so she's an amazing person, and she's been bodybuilding for the last 11 years, and she is also she was a personal trainer, but last year she took a great risk. She stopped personal training and put her business online, so at the moment she's now she's selling programs to women all over the world and making an incredible profit from it. And as Miria before did, she took a big risk, and now she's helping people around the world, doing her job, but doing it from online. So it goes to show that you can be successful working from online. So Jess has some advice as well. Be passionate, persevere, be patient and persistent. Set your goals high and believe in your dreams, and get a business mentor. She says that when she was young, when she started out, she didn't have a mentor, but when she ended up, when she did get a mentor, it really fast-forwarded her success. So my advice on behalf of Jess would be to get a mentor, and that can really, help you get where you want to be faster. Next up we have Nix, also known as Nicole Adams. She is a social media icon and mental health advocate. We had Nix in the office last week at Māori Television, and she actually lived she's just come back from Australia, but she has a really, really interesting story to tell. When about 4 years ago, she lost her 2-year-old son to a virus. And pretty much from that point on, her life went downhill. She fell into depression, and her way to get out from that was by taking drugs, and she ended up being addicted to meth, and then she went to prison for it. Last December, she got out of prison, and she decided to change her life. And so what she's done is that she's taken to social media, and she's made a Facebook page, and she talks to people within the communities about struggles that they might be going through, and then she tells them about her own struggles. Obviously, she has been, at the bottom. So these people who she talks to on her social media page tell her about the struggles that they've been through, and that kind of gets the attention of so many people, because in New Zealand there are so many Māori people who are going through different struggles similar to her. She's talked to people who have been sexually abused, people who are drug addicts, people who are depressed, possibly suicidal. And when she was interviewed last week in Māori Television, she told us that it's within you to be able to heal from experiences, and I kind of understood where she's coming from, obviously as a victim myself, but also that sometimes but it's hard to say, but sometimes people might not need services, they might just need to find the ability to heal within them, and that's what she does. So she talks to people from around the country and shares those stories on her social media page. So at the moment she's got a following of about 80,000 people, and that leads me to my next point. Because of her incredible following, she was chosen for a Facebook trial. And so what that means is that people can go onto her page and click that they want to become a supporter. So that means that they pay a certain amount, I think it's about $8 a month, to then have exclusive access to certain photos or videos that she has been through. And so if you look at her page, she has 80,000 followers. And if you think about the number of people who might actually sign up to her supporters, the option to pay for her exclusive content, the amount of money that she's making from helping people is actually quite a lot of money, and it shows that, helping people can also, create an income. Yeah. So that's just another incredible story that I find really fascinating, and I find her to be very inspirational. So hopefully you can learn something from her. And then lastly, this is a friend of mine. He's not a female, obviously. His name is Ezekiel Rowe. You might have seen him in the news a few times in the last year or so. So last year he was given a medal from the Queen. Last month he was named one of the top 30 in Forbes Young Under 30 Entrepreneurs. And he was actually an ambassador for the Key to Life Trust, which is run by Mike King. Do you guys know about, I Am Hope? So he was the young, pretty much leading I Am Hope as an ambassador, and he also has started a program called Tū Kotahi. So that's about going around schools and teaching groups of mentors at each school how you can help your fellow students through who need support around mental health. And so what's incredible about him is that his background, he came from nothing. I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. He said that he used to live in a van that was built by his father. But he was just so grateful to have his whānau around him. He's from up north, and at the time, I think when he was very young, there was about 5 suicides that happened within the space of 2 months. And so that inspired him to then do something about it, and that's when he started Tū Kotahi. And so his advice is pretty similar to the others. I just also wanted to highlight the fact that his project Tū Kotahi is being funded by the government. I think it's a $1 million project that he's looking after now, and that's about to go out in schools. So what's so impressive about him is that he has made an idea, or he's fulfilled his dream to create this incredible project. But not only is he doing it on a regional level, he now has government support and the funding to expand it. So I think that's just incredible. But his advice is to have the right like-minded people around you. He told me that having Mike King around him as a mentor was really awesome. They obviously had the same kind of thoughts in mind to help people who are affected by mental health. So having someone around you to really make sure that they have your best interests at heart, that's the one. That's really, really important, because some people can pretend that they're there for you for one reason, but they're actually not. So it's important to surround yourself with people who have your same interests. Remain open-minded as projects may change. That's okay, as the outcome is still the same. Understand that change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and dedication to create dreams. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys, but I really hope that if you found something valuable from my little spiel here, might have been a bit of a mess, but that's okay. But thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Jess. And you'll be able to ask questions of Jess in the Q&A at the end of the section. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. I'd like to invite Agnes Loheni now to come and take the stage and share with us. Let's give Agnes a hand as she comes.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me if I just have the mic like that? Yeah. Fantastic. So 5 years ago, I was walking through one of the Spotlight stores near where I live. I live out in West Auckland. and I go there quite regularly. I've got 5 children. There's lots of things in there for the home, and also at the time for my business. So I'm browsing through the fabric aisles, and a print down the end of one of the aisles catches my eye. And so I walk towards it, and it's just a tropical palm print. It was surrounded by other sort of Pacific type prints. And I stared at it, and I thought, I know this print. I designed this print maybe about two years earlier. And it wasn't a similar print. I knew that that was the exact print of something that I had created for my business. And so my first reaction is, wow, this is amazing. Something that I've created in my small business is here on sale in a fairly large corporate business. So my business of 2 stores and this business of around 120 stores. So that's really cool. And my second reaction is, wow, something that I've created is now selling in this business without my knowledge or permission. So, how did I get here? And before I just finish that story, I'm just going to go back. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to introduce you to the person that started it all, my mother, Mena. So my mother was an expert dressmaker and entrepreneur. She was self-employed, she worked from home, she managed the household, on top of serving her extended family, her ainga. As a little girl, one of my most cherished memories was falling asleep to the soft hum of my mum's sewing machine running late into the night. That hum soothed me to sleep with the reassurance that my mum was nearby. And oftentimes, I would wake up early for school and I would still hear the hum of her machine. These memories are what drive me. Watching my mum use her God-given talents to start her own business from home, to provide another income stream for our family, all so that she could be close to her family. For Mum, it was all about family. And when it came to our turn, my sisters and I, we named our business after her, Mena. And so I stand before you today as the daughter of this strong woman, both humbled and in awe that I get to be in the presence of strong women. So many amazing experiences and journeys and stories before me. I, for my part, am just honoured to be able to add my story to the rich tapestry of the journeys and experiences here tonight. So thank you. My story of the last 17 years in business is intertwined with being a working mother, raising 5 children, all while chipping away at my degree in chemical engineering, which I finally finished 2 years ago. My business journey has involved starting the business from home, opening retail stores, securing export and local sales channels, and ensuring our sustainability for 17 years. My business is owned by my sisters and I. I have 3 younger sisters. So it's 100% women-owned, with 100% women employees, and serves almost 100% women customer base. I can confidently say that we have been successful in business because we are women. For many of the years in our business, I worked on the shop floor as well. I watched women come into the store, often shy and timid. And as a busy woman myself, I was able to relate to them. And so these become opportunities to listen, to serve, and to meet their needs. I learned that clothes are much more than just prints and fabric. they are a part of us, they symbolise our values and our expression of our identity. Women buy and men are dressed to show the world their pride and their Pacific heritage. As a business, we are always honoured to be the channel that they choose to do this. We have a file brimming with photos sent in by women in their dresses at their various functions and events, and we get their notes and emails and messages. Whenever I read these messages and I remember the stories behind them, I'm always moved and reminded of just how important my role is as a woman in business. And this is why I say that women are the untapped powerhouse in our economy. And why do I say this? Because if 17 years in my business journey, coupled with my life story, has shown me one thing, it is that we run this world. We are the resource allocators. We are the spenders. We are the super mums. We are the budgeters. We are the matriarchs. We are the planners. We are the go-to people. We are the ones who stay connected with what's happening in our families and in our communities. All of these roles and functions we play that make up the day-to-day activities in our lives has an economic fingerprint, an economic impact. That economic impact is far larger than anyone can imagine. And that's because women make over 80% of all household spending decisions. The well-being of a home is largely determined by the decisions that we make. It is time to change the narrative about our role in the economy to one of empowerment and one which acknowledges our role in the well-being of our families. Stores, malls, websites, businesses are mostly geared towards women because we are the decision makers and we are the resource allocators that underpin the economy. So back to that Spotlight story. Because as I stood in that Spotlight store, I knew that I had to do something. I had to stand up for my business and for my integrity, just as I would do the same for my family. And here's the thing, a couple of phone calls, a couple of letters, one very helpful spotlight who fell over themselves to put everything right. And I was compensated properly for what was something that occurred in a fabric mill overseas, and for which Spotlight had no idea had been taken from me. So basically we stood up for ourselves and we won. And recently I've started a new chapter on my journey as a Member of Parliament, and I'm the first Pacific woman in the National Party. It's a journey where I can help women, just like me, running small businesses, running households, running the world. I get to help them in their battles and walk beside them in their journey. This is what I've always wanted to do, and I am incredibly grateful to get the chance to do it for the next generation of young women. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Agnes. I was cheering that you're the first Pacifica woman, but sad that it's taken this long. Like, it's 2019, how did that happen? But that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm glad you fought and won that particular battle. Bronnie Jacobson is here to speak to us as well. I'll let Bronnie tell you a little bit about her background, but thank you so much, Bronnie.
Thanks. Well, thank you, everybody. I've just absolutely loved hearing each speaker tonight and enjoyed my interactions with some of you over the breaks as well. It's just been a fantastic evening, and thanks for organising and sponsoring and serving us and putting this event on. So, I have been in business, and it's scary to say it, but really over the last 2 decades, more than that time. Simultaneously, I've also raised 4 sons, and I've got 3 grandsons as well. So I'm into the big family story as well. And I totally agree with you, Agnes. We run the world, actually, in a beautiful way. And it's not that our boys and our men aren't part of it, but actually we are extraordinarily powerful as women. And I think that's not to be taken lightly, and it's not to be abused, but it's to be treasured, and we are to use it wisely. I digress. Anyway, I have spent, as I said, the last about 25 years working in business. I've worked with comparative startups. I have worked with really established businesses, and I've actually just spent the last 2.5 years in Sydney working with a really iconic Australian brand over there that was in need of resurrection, to say the least. I think the interesting thing is that every single brand and business you see out in the marketplace right now was the brainchild of someone at some point, from the smallest little takeaway bar to a massive corporate. Someone at that point, at some point, invented that thing or had that idea, and they grew it and turned it into what we see around us today. All of these people, and you are included, that start businesses and grow them are special. These are people who have poured themselves and their lives into their ideas and into their companies. They're the ones that have taken the risks. They've had the sleepless nights, they've solved the problems, they've employed the staff, and actually we know this for a fact, very, very often they pay themselves way less than the staff they actually employ. And many of you are on a journey to become them, or you're already on that journey. You will, of course, have heard the stats around how many businesses fail early on, and I think Bloomberg says that 80% will fail in the first 18 months. Whatever the statistics you read, and they do vary, none of them make for pretty reading. But I do think that there are some things that we can do that make us less likely to be a casualty, and over the years, I think there's been some really pertinent things that I'd love to just share with you, and you can pick up on if you like. I wanted to share them. I called it, it's not the 7 deadly sins, it's the 7 potential pitfalls. So pitfall number 1 is not knowing your USP. Does everybody know what a USP is? It is your unique selling proposition. It doesn't matter what your product or your service is, it will rarely be absolutely brand new. It's more likely to be a move on or an improvement. And of course, we always think that our idea is going to take the world by storm. That's why we're here. It's our dream. We believe in it. We think we can do something better than what's currently available. But I guess the most critical thing that we need to know about our product is what differentiates it. Why are you any different from what else is out there? Can you explain it simply and easily? And if you can't, you won't be able to market it, and no one else will be able to talk about it. Your USP has got to be obvious. And if it's not, you just need to go away and do some work on it. Pitfall number 1. Pitfall number 2, not having a plan. And this has been touched on a little bit tonight. An idea is one thing, and a plan is a completely different thing. You will have heard the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But the conundrum is, isn't it, for ideas people, that very often we're not details people. The two things are sometimes a bit of a contradiction. In this game, you have to be both. And if you're not both, then get someone around you that has that other piece of the puzzle for you. An idea isn't enough. You really have to have some discipline to work out a plan. You start with the goals, which need to be measurable, and they need to have deadlines. And then you have got to add in the detail that proves that you know how to get to those goals. That is the point of the detail. You need to understand the what, and you need to understand the how. Here's some of them. What will it cost? How much capital do you need? How will you fund it? How will you make it? How will you deliver it? How will you market it? How will you sell it? What resources do you need? What might go wrong? What are your contingencies if things do go wrong? These are the kinds of questions that lead you to a plan that is going to be robust. You need to work through the plan right through the critical path of whatever your product or your service or your idea is, from the start to the end. You're still going to have surprises, but you need to do that thorough process all the way along. It needs to be focused, it needs to be logical, it needs to be realistic, and it needs to be robust. In the areas that you don't know about, get some expert advice. If you're doing some manufacturing, for example, you may not know about shipping, you may not know about compliance, you may not know about insurance. Ask people. Generally speaking, people are amazing and more than happy to share their expertise, so don't be shy. Your plan becomes the guide to keep you on the right track. It's a filter as well for your decision making too. So if something comes at you, you actually can put it through that plan and go, you know what, I don't actually need to think about that, or you can add it back in, but it's a good filter. It brings strength and it keeps you focused. It's like the spine in your body, it just keeps everything upright. So that's pitfall number 2 if you don't have a plan. Pitfall number 3, not starting lean and staying lean. You know when you've got yourself really, really fit and feeling like, I'm looking pretty good at the moment, and then Christmas comes, and then Easter comes, and then it's not looking so good anymore. The effort to go back to getting into a state again where you're fit again is way harder than it would have been if you'd just maintained it. It is exactly the same thing with a business. Excuse my croaky voice. You have to start the way you mean to go on, because when times get tough, it's actually too late to change it at that point. So, as part of your plan, start lean and stay lean. Set your standards and don't compromise. Create process and good working habits and don't waste your time and don't waste your resources. Put disciplines in place that allow you to measure yourself, and then be blimmin' ruthless about holding yourself to account. And you do the same for your product too. Don't make excuses for it, and take action if you need to take action. That's how you're going to build something. I know it sounds pedantic, but it's really worth it. Right, that's a bit better. Pitfall number 4, and I think this one is actually critical. It doesn't matter whether you're a startup or whether you're in business. If you don't know your customer, I'll say it pretty bluntly, you don't deserve to be in business, truly. Business for me is about people first, product second, process third, profit will come. In that order, it's always about people. If you don't know who that customer is, you can't serve them. And I would go as far as to say, if you don't care about the customer or the public or your client or whatever realm you're in, you shouldn't be there. We are there to serve, actually, truly serve. So don't ever assume that you know who your customer is, because that's a little bit arrogant. But be really proactive and disciplined in finding out about them and building up a picture of who they are. What do they care about? What do they do during the day? How old are they? What's the right price for something for them? How much can they afford to pay? Do you know their average salary? Some of this stuff is actually available through census, through all sorts of stats. You can get them and you can go, wow, that piece of my market actually only earns this amount a year. It's really, really powerful stuff. Are they a bargain hunter, or do they like to be ahead of the pack? All of that sort of thing, get into their headspace. You actually need to engage with people to do this too. Yes, you can look at the stats, but you actually need to go and talk to some people. You can't just be academic about it. You can go, take a clipboard to a mall and stop and ask people. Be brave. This is your dream. You're the one that's going to make it happen. And seriously, don't just ask your family, because they're going to say it's fabulous, whatever it is. Then I would advise you, when you've got that information, don't just store it in your head. It's actually really helpful if you get a board or something on your computer and you whack up detailed profiles. In the businesses that I've been in, actually without exception, we would profile, say, it might be 4 customers for each brand, because of the different behaviours. They got a name. They got a whole package around them about what they were all about. And it actually becomes really powerful, because you are thinking as you are creating. And I was in apparel and footwear and all of that, overarchingly. It made a difference to how you served them, because you were thinking about, what are they going to think? What are they going to feel when they see this? So, all products actually are about solving a problem, broadly speaking. They're solving a problem. What am I going to wear to this? How am I going to get my kid from A to B? If you really boil it down, we're there to solve problems, whether it's a service industry or whether it's actually a product. So when you know your customer, you can start to actually answer the problems that they've got. Pitfall number 5, not knowing your competition. very well to know your customer, but if you don't know your competition, whatever your product is, the reality is there's going to be competition in the marketplace. Classic example of this is the plethora of businesses that start in kidswear. Young mums at home who decide they don't like the offering that's in the marketplace and they're going to start a kidswear brand. And you will have known them, and they last, some of them go on and on and on, and that's amazing. In fact, Pumpkin Patch was a case in point, really, that happened, and that went very well for many, many years, and I was part of it for very many years. Others, most of them, in fact, unfortunately, are a flash in the pan. That's the sad reality. Apart from the fact that they might have fallen into some of those previous pitfalls, like not having a real USP, what really made them different, or simply assuming that their customer was like them. The other real pitfall is that they hadn't done their homework around the competition. Who else is in the market and what is that offering like? What are they selling, at what price? What channels are they using? What's their buying power of their product likely to be? What are they actually really, really good at? And then the killer question, and is your USP good enough to compete? So your mission actually, in whatever area you're in, is to thoroughly research your competition and your competitors. Do a SWOT analysis on them. Plot them out. If there's 20 within this doing the same thing that you're going to be doing or a similar thing, plot them out. Where do they sit on the cost versus quality? Where do they sit on the speed versus whatever it might be? But do a SWOT analysis and then really see, where do I fit in this market? And then you can frame up a little bit more about what your business is about. And this isn't a one-off, by the way. When you're in business, you should always be in and out of what the market is doing. You should know what your competitors are doing, because 100% they're watching you too. Once you're big enough, they're absolutely in your stores looking at you. What are you doing? If you're in a store or in your space or on your website. So that's number 5. Number 6, don't have unrealistic expectations. We think, oh, well, actually, no, maybe we don't. But business is about enjoyment. It's also about confusion. It's exhaustion. It's terrifying. It's exhilarating. It's basically a white-knuckle ride. But it is always about solving problems. And I said that about the product, but I'm talking now actually about the business. Day after day, business is just about solving problems that come in different packages. Your job is how to solve the problem of how you're going to get that product from supply into your customer's hand. The plan's absolutely vital so that you can consider the variables. But actually, business by its very nature is unpredictable. So if your expectation is that things are going to run smoothly, I can tell you right now, and you will know this if you've started for 5 minutes, it just doesn't go that way. But seeing problems as negative is going to demotivate you, and it will slow you down, and it may even derail you. Actually, what we have to do is reframe the hassle, the curveballs and the issues, and choose to see them as challenges and opportunities that force us to think and use our ingenuity. The bonus is when we actually do solve that stuff, we're left with absolutely brilliant understanding, experience, confidence and resilience that you can't get any other way than if you had not gone through that. I think too, the confidence when you have worked something out and actually nailed it needs to come with a humility that says there is always something more to be learnt here. And it also rises that courage inside us to make us go, actually, I'll take it on again when it hits us. So, expect and embrace the challenge. And then pitfall number 7, is compromising what you stand for. And that is a huge pitfall. When you're starting out and the pressure's on, there's temptations to take shortcuts, or there's temptations to cut costs or take some of the quality out. There's a temptation to excuse yourself if you fall short of what you've committed to others, but also to yourself and to your plan. There's a temptation often to partner with people or employ people for the sake of expediency, rather than ones that truly share your values. It's really, really easy to lose the essence of what you are setting out to build and achieve. And I guess I'm going to make a real assumption, and I believe it genuinely, that we're actually all here for more than just making money. Actually, business is about more than making money. And as I said, if you could do that people, product, process, and then the profit, that kind of frames it up. But it is really important to not fall into this trap of sacrificing your values. Don't compromise your vision. Your product and your brand should reflect the values that you hold dear, and your plan should show the pathway to accomplish what you've determined to do. You actually don't get second chances most of the time to re-establish your brand or your product in the mind of a customer. You know yourself, you go to a new cafe down the road and the food's rubbish, you don't go there again. There ain't no second chances. And actually, if you're going to do this, do it well, hold it tight, preserve it, treasure it. I think the other piece of that puzzle is that we know, and all the research is saying this, that customers more and more and consumers internationally are choosing to spend their money with brands and companies that have values that align to their own. Yeah. So the years of just purely transactional, fast, uncaring business are falling away really, really rapidly, and that's a great thing. But customers want to know your story. They want to know what you stand for. Your USP should also showcase that off as well. So don't dilute what sets you apart. So there, 10 minutes, 7 potential pitfalls that you can avoid when you apply focus and discipline. Know your USP, create a plan, start lean, stay lean, know your customer, know your competition, make sure your expectations are realistic, and don't compromise. And of course, enjoy the ride.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bronnie. I'll ask you to stay up here so that we can, and Agnes and Jess, if you'd like to come and join me on stage. I'm sure that there are some questions from the audience. I'll give you this microphone there, Bronnie. Okay, you saw how we ran out before. Who's got a question? Put your hand up now so that we can get the ball rolling from these wonderful ladies. Excellent. We have our mic hander arounder here. Even if you've got a question that you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to ask that, just ask away. Ask away. Check, check. Okay, well, I'll kick things off then while you're having a little think about that. I love the fact that all of you ladies have talked about entrepreneurship as a reflection of helping people and also taking risk. I was just Googling before that. Who knows the actual definition of an entrepreneur? What is an entrepreneur? Well, I can tell you because I just Googled it. It's someone who is willing to take a risk for a potential of gain. And so whether that's financial or emotional, putting yourself out there, would one of you ladies like to talk about the risk and how you've overcome that challenge of bravery on your journey?
Where do you start? But skin in the game is what it's about. You don't have the soft net of a regular wage or salary. And often I can tell from experience, for the first quite a few years, my sisters and I nowhere near any sort of minimum wage. If you calculate the hours that you put in, it's a long-term vision. And in the start, you just want to pay your overheads, you want to pay your staff. And the lessons I've learned in business, probably the best one is actually knowing that tough times are ahead, they hit you, and then picking yourself back up. And when we're in Samoa gets hit by cyclones very often, and so my Samoan family is here. We know, as business people, when that time of year it happens, everything shuts down. Your business is shut down, your staff have to go back and, often their homes have been destroyed. There's no logistics happening. And that can be detrimental to a business, but that was part of the environment that we're in. And sometimes you can't account for it, but you just got to make do. And sometimes you've got to adjust your business for different times and pick yourself up again.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anyone want to add to that? Okay, any other questions from the floor for these ladies? Dimple down the back. Here we go. Sometimes it just takes the ball to get rolling. Here we go.
Hello everyone, my name is Dimple Jane, and it's not a question, but I would just like to share something. And Jackie, I'm really grateful to you. Sorry.
That's okay.
For inviting me. All three of you were great, and there's a lot of learning I'm taking back with me. I would just like to tell Agnes that I'm a fashion and textile designer by qualification, and I approached your website for a job just a few weeks back, and your sister got back to me that, we are hiring for retail sales, nothing for design, so if you're interested, you can get back. How in my weakest dream would I imagine that, I would see you in person? You won't believe, when I saw you, I wanted to ask you if that was from Mena Fashion, believe me. And
Connections.
I have been following your brand from India, and I've just been
Oh, wow.
woman's back, and I'm very passionate about fashion and textile, and I should tell everyone that their brand is amazing. And I really love their clothes and prints. So, yeah.
I think you're hired. Actually, I shouldn't speak ahead. We'll connect.
This is the magic happening in real time, people.
And another thing, Jess, after your presentation, I have always believed that you have to be a good person to be successful in life. And I always believe and teach my kids the same thing. And what you've shown today proves that I'm on the right track. And yeah, I will be successful in future.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Dimple, for sharing. Isn't that amazing? All our stories interconnecting and colliding. Of all the places you could be tonight, you chose to be here, and this is where the magic happens, putting yourself out there, taking the risk. You could be home watching Netflix, but you're not. You're out here taking the risk. So good on you. There was another question over here. Young lady over there.
Hi, my name is Melissa. Just a question for Jess. I just wanted to ask, how did you manage to come forward and share your story with people, and who did you initially talk to, and what are the barriers that you have to overcome?
Oh, it's a good question. It actually took a long time for me to feel comfortable to talk about it, but what actually started off my journey was back in 2016. I entered Miss New Zealand for the first time, and we had this program called Presenters Platform, where all of the girls got together and talked about presenting, but also there was a part of the whole workshop where you got to talk about the things that you've struggled with throughout life, and a couple of the girls talked about being victims of sexual violence. And that year I was quite shy and I wasn't ready to talk about it, but then I entered again last year where I won the competition, but we had the same workshop. And over the last 4 or so years with pageants, I've been working with charities, and I found that working with charities started this passion inside me to be able to help others. And then, so when I won Miss New Zealand, I thought, why not do something that genuinely can help people? And I was much more mature, I guess the Me Too movement was a key drive into feeling accepted. I felt like I knew myself much more, and I knew that, although it was quite risky when I first launched Brave, because there was a story that went on Native Affairs about my whole journey, and I was really unsure of how the world would take it and how New Zealand would take it. And I was, as a journalist, you look at stories online, and there's so many people that comment under stories, negative and positive, and so I was expecting, people to just write horrible things about me or something, I don't know, but no one did, and it was incredible. Yeah. And I'm just so relieved because of that. And that was the same going to Miss World, because that wasn't an international competition, and I didn't even think that it was, there was a chance that I thought it wasn't going to be looked at so highly, but when it came second out of 120, it showed me that, the world is doing great things, and it's becoming more normal to talk about these situations. So I guess firstly pageants and charity work, built that passion, and then just taking a risk, of course.
Taking the risk.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Round of applause for the bravery, for the risk that we're all taking. Thank you, ladies. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time. I know these ladies may still be around if you can catch them afterwards. We've gone slightly over time tonight, which we apologise for, but there's just so many amazing things to say about business, and we're all passionate about helping you move forward. So just before we close tonight, I'd love if everyone who was involved in some way with bringing tonight together, whether you were helping, whether you were on food or coordinating or marketing beforehand, if you wouldn't mind just standing up for us. Just want to acknowledge everyone who has been involved. So from our speakers up the front through to people who've helped set chairs up and those kinds of things. I know there's more of you than that. There's some gentlemen at the back there who've been, there we go. And now let's give them a round of applause as well. Thank you so much. You can take your seat. We really appreciate that. Just a couple of people I want to highlight as well. This gentleman in the corner with the headphones on is Gio from a videography company called Duoscope Creative. Gio is also an entrepreneur who's stepping out into his new business. Who knows that video on social media is so much more powerful than almost anything? So if you are looking to expand your business and expand your marketing reach, videography is a wonderful thing to consider, and Gio's up for a chat after this night, and he would love to have a talk to you about how his company can help what you are doing. Michelle as well, give us a wave, Michelle. Michelle is a photographer, entrepreneur also, and again, images, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and so being able to have photographs of tonight's event has been a huge part of what we wanted to do so that we can build awareness and momentum for the next one as well. So Michelle, again, would love to have a chat to you if you want some photos for a personal branding photo shoot, a product shoot, those kinds of things. Michelle's up for a chat afterwards as well. So these are the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about, of putting ourselves out there, putting our businesses out there, and meeting and connecting. And maybe chats don't lead somewhere, but maybe they do. And you've made a friend. So we're up for some chatting still? That's awesome. That's awesome. We just wanted to mention also that we'd like to make these Women Entrepreneurs South Pacific events an ongoing thing. So we're looking at running another one in July. But rather than us deciding what we're going to focus on, we have some feedback forms. We have some feedback forms? Do we have some feedback forms? We'll check if we have some feedback forms. But either way, if you want to come and... Pardon? It's online. Excellent. How do people access that? Yes. Pardon? Facebook. Jump on Facebook. Tell us what you would like to hear about. What are the main challenges that you have? Is it your marketing? Is it the emotional risk of putting yourself out there? Because that's a thing. That's a thing as much as business stuff is. Is it knowing about planning and strategy? Do you want to hear more about tax? Do you want to hear more about networking? Those kinds of things. So we'd love that. But keep an eye out for another event in July. Who wants to come back and hear more? Yeah? Come join the family, join the party. That's awesome. That's awesome. Shailesh, is there anything else that I have missed?
I want to have a question.
You want to...
All the questions.
Okay. Yes. You can... You're the boss, man. You can do what you like. You're the wind beneath our wings.
Put forward some of our concerns or issues, which is easier to help us out. One of the biggest part of this is the creativity, which I found that women in this room would agree with me, that there is a lot of women who are quite creative when it comes to either branding, marketing. We tend to hire women so that we can achieve success. And art and culture is one of the things as well. So I wanted to know from Michael that under the banner of art and culture, which has been not really as a prime focus for so far, and I think recently with Jacinda coming on board as art and culture minister as well, I wanted to know a lot of things about how young women and how young men or artists can get some sort of support under the art and culture, whether it is photography, as she mentioned, or even videography, or filmmaking, or anything. Is there any specific things that the government is doing to improve the art and culture so that people can engage in art and culture and creativity? So that what we have seen and what my concern is, most of the kids or creative people don't have platforms, enough platforms to actually excel or to present themselves. So the frustration is quite high, what I have noticed. So how do we make the transition to bring them and give them that platform or help and support from the government point of view? That's I wanted to know, like, is there any such thing where they can seek help? Because creativity leads to frustrations if they don't get to express. And that's where we want to make a difference by giving more platforms so that they can be considered as a mainstream like academics. So is there something work is going to be done on that regard or not? That's it.
That was one out of the box at the end of the night, Shailesh, but thank you. I was just thinking about a cup of tea and a biscuit. But can I just say briefly, look, the creative sector is just so enormously important.
Yes.
It's important economically for our country, and that is often hugely underrated, actually the value of the creative sector in terms of jobs in our economy, but actually just in terms of having a soul as a country, in terms of telling our stories, understanding who we are, people being able to express themselves. It is so, so important. It is also often quite a challenging sector for people to be engaged in. There's sort of the, you know, the old story about the struggling artist, and it's a little bit like that often for people who have creative talents. It can be a bit of a struggle. There aren't necessarily 9-to-5 jobs to easily slot into. You know, a couple of things I would say on that. One is that we have got sort of some quite flourishing sort of ecosystems around particular creative communities which are building up. So I was at an event, for example, last week with the Tamil community, and they now run this incredible film competition within that community. And young people from within Tamil and broader Indian community can kind of feed their film talents into this competition, connect up with other people and sponsors, and actually try and find a way to develop a sustainable enterprise in that way. There's lots of those sort of communities that people can find. Through Creative New Zealand, which is kind of the lead government agency in this area, there are a range of programs and funding streams that are potentially available for people depending on what they're doing and what the criteria are. And that's something that we are continuing to look at to make sure that we're providing the right support at the right time to the right people to be supporting their creative talents. That's Creative New Zealand. They've got a website which promotes those programs and those funding streams.
Excellent. And just following off the back of that, thank you, Michael, is if you're looking for this kind of event, but particularly for creatives, then that's a gap that I'm trying to fill with Creatives on Purpose as well. So bringing some support and encouragement strategy to the creative sector. So I'd love to come and have a chat afterwards. I can take your details and invite you to our next event, which is on Thursday the 13th of June. And funnily enough, Jess, one of your slides was word for word our theme for next month, which is take action, make it happen. And so with all the stuff that we've learnt tonight, it's not going to do you any good unless you actually go home and take action on it. And the same goes for the creative sector. We, as entrepreneurs and as creatives, we're often visionaries and we have these great ideas, but they can just stay as ideas unless we actually take action on them. So there are things in place for the creative sector as well. Put up can I see a show of hands who would consider themselves in a creative field within their business? See, look, that's a big section of the room. So great, come and have a chat to me. Keep an eye out for our next Women Entrepreneurs event. Come and talk to me about Creatives on Purpose. You can also find that on Facebook. So we'll bring tonight to a close. There's still some food and drinks up the back. So stay around and chat if you can, and keep an eye out for our next event. We'd like to get some momentum on this. So thank you all very much for coming to Women Entrepreneurs South Pacific. Thank you.